They don't make them like they used to. Well, actually, they do make them like they used to. They even make them a lot better these days. Let's talk about fishing rods and how to make sure you don't be like me and break so many fishing rods. Alright folks, you might have seen the video that I uploaded a few days ago where I snapped the tip off my very expensive Venom fishing rod. I think people viewing the video got more upset about the whole ordeal than I did. That's because it was probably my fault. Now, I mentioned in the video that the fishing rods are designed to bend over the length of the rod, not the tip of the rod. Now what I meant by that is, I might have to change my camera angle here and just stand back a little bit and see if I'm in frame. How did I go? Am I in frame? This is an old fishing rod. This is a Silstar Traverse X. I've had this from the 90s. It's a little whippy rod. It's a graphite coil construction. I don't even know what that means, but it's graphite based. Now I'm on a better angle here than what I was in the field the other day. Basically, what I meant is that fishing rods aren't designed to bend there. They're designed to bend over the entire rod. So you can put a lot of pressure on it. Look at the bend in that rod there now, because the whole length of the rod is taking the brunt of that downward pressure. It's not just being bent. If I held that there and put all that pressure on that top half of the rod, it would most likely snap. If I put it on the entire rod, like that, they are strong as strong. Now, I'm going to explain to you, basically, and like I said, I'm not very technical. I'm not a real technical person, so I'm not going to try and sound too smart. And to be quite honest, even if I did try and sound smart, it probably wouldn't work. Basically, in a nutshell, there's two different types of rods. There's graphite rods, sometimes graphite composite, graphite coil construction, that one's called. Some I-mate or IM8 or something. There's just so many different types of things, but there's graphite and there's glass, old-fashioned fiberglass rods that were really popular back in the day, back in the 70s and the 80s. They still make them. Glass rods are stronger. That's why people say they don't make things like they used to, because back in the day they made these fiberglass rods and they were much stronger. They never broke, but they also weren't very good to cast. These days they've come up with all this great technology, these different types of graphite and graphite composite, graphite based, and they cast with precision accuracy, but they need to be looked after or they break. I'm not good at looking after things, in case you hadn't noticed by my various drone crashes. I've killed drones, I've broken fishing rods, I've drowned cameras. That's just me, that's just the nature. I've been like that. I was like that long before YouTube was ever invented, and I'll probably be like that forever. I just don't look after things very well. Now that Venom rod that I broke the other day, a few people said, you know, the rod must have been faulty. I don't necessarily agree with that, and the reason being because I don't look after things. Now, I've been using that Venom rod for probably a bit over 2 years, two years and a couple of months. I think I broke it about Christmas time in 2017. So, 2016 I think actually. So I've used it for about 2 years. Now, bear in mind the amount of times that I go fishing. My 2 years is probably the equivalent to most people's 20 years of fishing, and that's serious. I go fishing 4 or 5 nights a week during the summer months and during the best times of the year to go fishing. I'm fishing constantly. So that rod has done a power of work. In that time, it's been cast, whack, I've hit a tree. Or whack, the lure's hit a twig and it's bent the rod back. And there's been times where I've been surprised that I haven't actually broken it. It's been dropped. It's been just thrown in the back of my car with other fishing rods to rub on other rods and just get scratched and stuff. So there's every possibility that fishing rod may have already had a fracture in it. It may have had a crack in it or something from something that I've done. And also, I had it back on a really bad angle, which is what I said in the video, and like I showed you then with the fishing rod. Well, you may be familiar with the term high sticking. I probably won't be able to do it in here because there's a roof. High sticking is when you hold the rod up really high. So you hook a fish, the fish swims towards you, or there's a lot of slack. So you lift the rod up and you hold it up high and you reel it above your head, and the rod's pointing up like a great big TV aerial. That's called high sticking, and that is one really sure way to break a graphite rod, because when you've got your rod up really high, that means the line is on more of an acute angle down to the fish, and that's why it puts it at risk of breaking. That's because of that acute angle. Now, I wasn't high sticking the other night, but I did have my rod pointing up quite on such an acute angle down to the lure. that alone will break a graphite rod, but it will also combine that with the fact that it's had a lot of use in the last 2 years. It's been dropped, it's been thrown in the car and taken out, it's been covered in dust, it's been laid in the sand. I'm not good at looking after things. I think it's done really well. Two things that you hear a lot, two sayings when people break fishing rods. One is they don't make things like they used to. Well, they still do. They still make the old-fashioned graphite, the old-fashioned fiberglass rods. They're strong as bugger and you can still buy them, and perhaps they might be better suited to me. The other thing is that's it's the fish and tackle shop's fault, or it's the rod builder's fault. It's always somebody's fault. Sometimes you've got to step back and evaluate. Sure, there are times when fishing rods break because they're faulty. I had it happen with an Akuma fishing rod years ago. I broke 6 of the same model. I ended up breaking one in store, just practicing how strong they were. So I know that things can be faulty, but a lot of the time you have to evaluate the situation and say, well, what have I done with this rod? Have I nurtured it? Have I looked after it? Have I kept it in a rod sock? Have I stopped it from scratching on other fishing rods? I've even touched an electric fence with that rod. And I've got a boot. So, the rod's done a lot of work. It's not always the rod's fault. Now, let's just quickly, before I wind this up, let's talk about the two different types of rod, fiberglass and graphite, or fiberglass type and graphite type rods. The graphite type rods, which is the more expensive rods, they're stiffer, they're much stiffer. With that stiffness comes precision casting accuracy, and I've mentioned so many times in a lot of my videos that accurate casting is where it's all at. The single best ingredient, the single best tip that I can give anybody casting lures for Murray cod is to cast accurately. And that's why so many high profile fishermen and successful fishermen like to use graphite based rods, because they are designed, they are pure casting machines. They will put the lure in the right spot, cast after cast. I often get comments on my channels, gee, you cast well, gee, I wish I could cast like that, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, a lot of it comes down to practice and the fact that I've been doing it for so long, but a good fishing rod is critical for that, and graphite-based rods are the best, and that's why I love my Venom, because it allows me to pinpoint my casts time after time. Fiberglass rods, on the other hand, the old-fashioned fiberglass rods, they're a lot more whippier. Sometimes we call them spaghetti sticks because they sort of flop around a bit because they're so whippy, but they are strong. What you lose by going with an old-fashioned fiberglass rod, you lose that casting accuracy. It's hard to cast with precision accuracy consistently. You might get a good one in, the next one might be a couple of feet away, then you might get close. Whereas with graphite, you'll get it consistently good every cast. The fiberglass, you won't. But the trade-off is the graphite, you're more prone to breaking. If you high stick it, if you hold the rod at a more of an acute angle, if you don't look after it in general, you're more prone to break a graphite rod. And a lot of people will tell you they've broken graphite rods in the past. I think I must have broken about 20. I broke my trout fishing rod in the door of the car a while back, and it wouldn't have mattered what that rod was made out of, it's dead. But the fiberglass rods, they won't break. They don't break as easy. They'll take a lot more punishment. They're stronger, but you don't have the casting accuracy. So it's tit for tat. Do you want a rod that's built like they used to be, that's going to last you to hand down to your grandkids in 40 years' time? Definitely don't get a graphite rod. Get a fiberglass based rod or something like that. A whippy stick, Do you want a rod that's going to allow you to cast with precision accuracy? Get a nice, firm, lightweight graphite rod, and that will assist your casting and help you catch fish. It will load up really well under the weight of the fish because they're designed to bend over the length of the rod. It'll work a treat, but don't be like me. Look after it. Take good care of it. Put it in a rod sock. I'm actually thinking about getting a rod sock for my new Venom when it arrives. Get a rod sock, look after it, take good care of it, and be mindful of the angle that you've got the line on, that you're not high sticking it or holding it down at too acute angle. I hope this explains a few things to a few people with regards to buying fishing rods. And just a quick tip, if you're thinking about buying a fishing rod for your kids, definitely don't get a graphite rod. It's a well-known fact in the fishing industry that you don't buy graphite rods for kids, because the moment they put their foot on them while it's laying on the sand, there's no give, snap. They break them all the time. They cost more and they break easier. The kids don't necessarily need that precision accuracy when they're casting, particularly if they're bait fishing. And there's another thing. If you're buying a fishing rod to go bait fishing, you don't need a high-end graphite rod. You can get a spaghetti stick, load it up with a bit of cheese, cast it out and sit it in a fork-shaped stick, and it'll last you forever. Hope this has explained a few things about fishing rods, folks. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.